Guyana's hinterland regions possesses immense potential. There is untold mineral wealth to be exploited, a young and trainable population, and vast expanse of savanna lands. Yet the people living in these regions are ranked among the poorest. What would it take to improve the living standard of Guyana's hinterland? On Guyana 411 this week, we take a look at some of the policies and programs being implemented by the government to address the needs of the people living in the hinterland. The development of Guyana's hinterland is being given renewed focus by the coalition government as efforts continue to provide equal access to services, resources, and opportunities offered by the state. In this line, hinterland communities are expected to benefit from several massive infrastructural developmental projects.
The government is taking a holistic look at infrastructure in the hinterland. The intention is to improve access to all hinterland communities with greater connectivity to the national network. It is also envisaged that this will open up avenues for economic development of Guyana's interior and improved quality of life for its residents. Over time, it has been recognized that traveling to the interior areas through the channels that currently exist can be very burdensome and costly. It is against this background that the coalition government has crafted a comprehensive plan to transform the infrastructural network in the hinterland. Over $600 million has been budgeted for this.
We are going to do certain roads. I mean, Linden, Kokwani, we're going to get to that. Some of the trails, being Puruni, that's one of the areas where the miners have complained that it's in a poor state. We're going to get there, and certain villages in 1, 2, 7, I think 8 and 9, we're going to get there to do work as possible. I've given my team an instruction. I don't want any patchwork. I don't want any cheap work. It's no use us trying to do a thin layer of something to stretch it all the way. We've got to build a solid structure. Next year, if we only can do half the road, at least the communities have a very good first half. Next year, we will get to the other half. So therefore, we're not going to try and stretch the money to make it work. We're actually going to do something so therefore it could last during my term. I don't want to be going back in. Every year there's a Lethem Road, and every year the rainy season, people come and complain. We're going to do it in phases to ensure that, and eventually that we would have something worthwhile.
Emphasis will also be placed on developing the various airstrips, making it easier for aircraft to get in and out of the communities. $79.5 million has been allocated for the rehabilitation of all hinterland airstrips. A task force was set up by the Ministry of Public Infrastructure to engage the various regional administrations on their infrastructure development needs. This will allow for priority areas to be addressed immediately.
We envisage bridging the Demerara, a new fixed structure in the Demerara. We're talking about a new road, a roadway connecting from Sand Hill, going all the way to linking back up to that same Parika Goshen Road. It's all nice virgin land. We're talking about Molson Creek to Oriala to Molson Creek work. We're talking about redevelopment of Stellens. I have a proposal which I'm going to send to cabinets, and about redevelopment of both the Freedom Hoop and the Georgetown Stelling. That is prime land, prime commercial land. What we're supposed to be doing is not just anchoring ships there. We're supposed to be doing in any other country that would be in riverside property with commercial venues and those things like that. I have a proposal. As you see, it's not the final thing. I have a proposal on doing some boardwalks in the seawalls area. Which is both will help with our sea defense work, as well as make a space for people on Sundays. So therefore, it's done. It's quite easily done. So 2020, we should have a transformed city and a transformed country.
$50 million was allocated for the provision of studies into the Guyana-Brazil land transport link and deep water port, and $20 million for the provision of a Quarantine River Bridge access. These two projects, when completed along with the other network initiatives, will see hinterland communities from the Pacaraimans having direct access to far-flung communities.
In this budget, there's an initiative that we've put in place whereby the new towns, which is like Madi, we're going to start with Madi, we're going to repave them. I mean, so no more you're going to go through a tongue and the roads, the potholes and those things like that. I mean, we're going to repave them with 3 to 4 inches of asphalt concrete. We're going to go to Madia. Next year we straight up to Bartica. Then we go to Maruma. All the areas are stated to be tongue. So therefore, when you go into it, you must know you're in a tongue, a Guyanese tongue. It must not look anymore or feel anymore. I mean, like a mining outpost. There's a tree planting initiative as well, which we're going to plant the trees around the country to ensure that we get cleaner and greener environment so that people feel comfortable just living in there. And on the energy side, I have several unserved village communities. We definitely try to get to them. Some of them will be there this cycle. It is our idea to ensure that we move away from how business was done before. Villages should not be victimized because of their perception of where they are or who the inhabitants are. I have a policy of equal access to everybody. I think that we have to bring this country up collectively.
These transformational projects are geared towards uniting Guyanese across the country and aimed at allowing easy travel and communication between persons living on the coastline and in the interior.
Among the primary plans of the coalition government for hinterland communities is for them to become economically independent. This means that there are going to be initiatives that will lead towards growth and development strategies that emphasize self-sufficiency within Amerindian communities, removing the culture of dependency. The government is moving to ensure that Amerindian villages are economically independent. More so, that residents of these villages do not have to continuously depend on handouts to sustain themselves and their families. As a result, the administration is working with the villages to design and implement sustainable economic ventures. 187 villages in the hinterland can each get $5 million for a green, sustainable project for Guyana's 50th independence anniversary. This particular project funds community ventures such as the construction of village shop, acquiring passenger cargo and fishing boats, and purchasing minibuses, tractors, and ATVs.
There are a lot of villages. I think it's like 87 to date still to uplift their presidential grant. So if we would have put in for the 211 for this year, we couldn't have spent that money from September to December because, as you can see, you didn't pick up from since 2015, and we're not allowed anymore to keep those kinds of money. And just let me take the opportunity to tell you that in our 2016 budget, which is not approved yet, but which we have developed in the ministry, there is a $5 million that is budgeted for the 50th anniversary project. Now, I'm telling you all because it's likely that it will be approved. As soon as the ministry sends it back to us, we'll see if it's in there. And I know for sure that when it goes to the National Assembly in budget time, I know it will be approved. But this $5 million, now you should already start thinking about a project too, Shaw, right? You and your councillors and the community think about a project for $5 million and then start doing your estimate and so. But it must be a community approval.
The Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs is also in the process of implementing the second phase of the Community Development Plans, CDPs, which is being funded through the Amerindian Development Fund. 160 communities are set to benefit from up to $5 million to start up community-based projects. Specific emphasis is also being placed on women. Women's groups in the hinterland communities are urged to submit proposals to the Ministry on viable projects. They can benefit from as much as $1.5 million.
We're putting a lot of emphasis on the empowerment of women. Because this time, a long time, where our men could have provided for us while we stay home and mind the children. This time, cost of living is very high. And as women, we have to be beside our husbands or our partners, helping to build a family life, a strong foundation for our children. So we need the skills. We need the skills to do so. So for our women, we will have things like food processing, as I said, sewing and embroidery, craft, what else? Jewelry making.
The aim is to eliminate the culture of indigenous people collecting handouts, as government is prepared to support any viable community projects.
It is not just about receiving, it is about planning, it is about accounting, it is about being responsible before you could gain success. It doesn't happen one time, but we have to start. And we have to stop depending like we are helpless. We need to take this on, and we need to take this on now.
Further, government is moving to make the hinterland the next frontier for agricultural development. Some of the crops identified for cultivation are corn, soybean, cassava, and legumes. Emphasis will also be placed on fishing and poultry rearing in these communities.
It means the balance of law being considered as the next frontier for agricultural development, and related professionals have indicated the vast untapped potential within the region with corresponding challenges.
In the past, many hinterland villages were granted money to implement economic ventures. Many of these ventures were never realized, although the money was spent. As a result, the coalition government has committed to provide technical support to the respective communities, and village leaders will benefit from entrepreneurial training to ensure that these projects are sustainable. One of the main aspects of improving the quality of life for persons is the availability of adequate housing, and this needs to be complemented by the provision of certain basic amenities such as safe water and reliable power. These issues form part of the government's consideration in addressing the needs of hinterland communities.
Critical to the government's efforts to improve the quality of life in hinterland communities is the need to improve the living conditions of the residents.
Hinterland development, I'd like to assure again members of the hinterland and particularly of the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, is a major priority of this government. We recognize that Guyana's first peoples, our indigenous sisters and brothers, have been neglected for far too long. The administration is committed to improving the standards of living of citizens who live and work in our large and diverse hinterland. The administration is determined to ensuring that the vast wealth of the hinterland is finally used to develop and benefit those who make Guyana's interior their home.
In this regard, there is focus on making housing as affordable as possible and as well providing improved access to housing for poor families.
I feel that it's the duty of all governments, and more particularly AP and AFC government, ensure that every citizen must be in a position where they can own their own homes, regardless of what happened or where the status of life may be.
Thus far, the administration has been successful in accessing a US $3 million loan to expand on the construction of homes in the hinterland regions. But focus is not only on building homes, but also on developing communities in tandem with individual dwellings. To this end, the administration has undertaken the huge initiative of transforming the hinterland communities of Mabaruma, Lethem, Madia, and Bartica into towns. These will have better roads, adequate water supply, and improved power supply, among other services. Further, the residents of these areas are being urged to be part of the greater initiative of realizing a green economy.
I would like you to use the next 10 months to make Bartica the most beautiful town in the entire country. There are economic reasons for that. There are health reasons for that. There are political and social and cultural reasons for that. That when people arrive at that stelling, they must know they're coming in to the beautiful hinterland of Guyana. No styrofoam, no plastic, no old wood. I left that stelling like that in 1950. I come back and say, this thing ain't changed.
Part of developing the communities will also see focus on defining their boundaries and awarding them land titles. 113 Amerindian communities are being targeted for demarcation and subsequently for being granted titles. Attention is also on the many issues affecting the communities, critical of which include the provision of a safe water supply and electricity.
Our thinking is that if we are doing work in a region or a community and a contractor wins a contract, we want to say to the contractor, by definition, if they have to select people from, as far as possible, from the community, that should be a priority. So that it should not hinder the efficiency of the process, but that it doesn't make sense to have you doing work in a community and you need people to do the work who have the capacity within that community and they're not having an opportunity.
$252 million has been provided in Budget 2015 to ensure that every resident in the hinterland can access safe drinking water and a reliable service. Meanwhile, to provide for the energy needs of the hinterland, the administration is examining renewable sources of energy. A feasibility study for a large hydropower development in the Mazaruni region has started. The government is also looking at the construction of small hydro systems in areas such as Mokomoko, Keto, and Tumatumari. In order to strengthen communities, the government plans to train and equip local leaders to run the affairs of their community. This also supports the government's plan of a decentralized system of government and placing more authority in the hands of local government authorities.
We have recognized that for too long, our regional administration has been performing, trying to give satisfaction to the residents throughout the regions without having a visionary plan that would help them in carrying out their activities throughout the regions. By that I mean we had plans but were not documented as per se, whereby we would have come up with a strategic plan for each region, knowing that each region will have their specific needs.
At present, regional democratic councils and neighborhood democratic councils are receiving support that would guide the development and implementation of action plans for their regions and communities. Meanwhile, at the level of the village council, councillors are receiving training in transparency and accountability.
In its overall plan to address the development of hinterland communities, the government intends to address the disparity in the education system. It has been noted that the quality of education offered on the coast is much higher than what is offered in the hinterland. This has placed young hinterland residents at a disadvantage, and it is a situation which government intends to correct.
Hinterland educational deficits range from generalized exclusion to limited access to upper levels of primary and secondary education. Further access to formal education is also affected by factors such as lack of or deficient school infrastructure, lack of qualified teachers, and the financial burden imposed by indirect costs of education such as materials, uniforms, school meals, and transportation. Over the next 5 years, the coalition government aims to address each of these constraints affecting access to formal education in the hinterland, thereby ensuring that every hinterland child of school age gets a sound education.
The single biggest problem, which has dire implications for the future, is the broken public education system. which produces an increasing number of illiterate and numerate youths. Our priority will be to ensure that everyone gets a sound education, to prepare him or her for satisfactory employment. We shall ensure that every child is able to attend school. No child should be prevented from attending school because of parental poverty. We shall ensure progressively over the next 5 years that every single primary school child is transported to school by boat, bicycle, or bus.
With regards inclusive and equitable access to environment that are conducive to learning, the new government has prioritized the construction, rehabilitation, and upgrade of schools in the hinterland. Focus is also on ensuring safe and sound housing for the children and students who must access education in neighboring communities and for the coastal teachers who are providing the formal training.
Being a teacher coming out from the hinterland region myself, I know exactly what are some of the living conditions in these hinterland areas as it relates to accommodation for teachers or nurses. The previous administration, yes, they tried, they had done some work, but more work needs to be done. For example, we need to attract these trained teachers, we need to attract our doctors, we need residential specialized doctors to assist in emergency cases. But how can we attract them when we have no proper facility accommodation for them? So the Ministry of Communities did indicate to the RDCs, the REXOs and the regional chairmen that they need to budget, they need to put money into the 2016 budget so that these facilities now can be upgraded, they can be, human, because some of the buildings that we visited, some steps collapsing, these buildings were allowed to dilapidate so much that sometimes we may have to put up new buildings.
Meanwhile, even as more and more teachers from the hinterland continue to benefit from training through the Cyril Potter College of Education, the new government is ensuring that these teachers are equipped with the appropriate electronic teaching learning aids to deliver the intended curricula at all levels. To this end, these teachers are now benefiting from the decision taken to convert the One Laptop Per Family OLPF program into the One Laptop Per Teacher program.
The One Laptop Per Teacher program provides, as was indicated during the political campaign, what we believe is a more strategic integration of ICT in education than an OLPF initiative that proved not only unwieldy and ill-conceived, but also fraught with corruption and wastage. It was a former registrar of CXC, Mr. Didacus Jules, who expressed the opinion that we in the Caribbean are, to quote, teaching digital children in analog classrooms, unquote. By providing teachers with both equipment and the training, we begin the process of transforming the learning space to become more adequately accessible to the minds of our young people.
The new administration will also continue to focus on evidence-based interventions that aim to support families in meeting the monetary and non-monetary challenges of sending their children to school. As a start, the school uniform program will be enhanced and the school feeding program will be expanded with an emphasis on hinterland locations.
We have had a great deal of controversy demonstrated inside and outside of this assembly on decisions we've taken to review certain programs, the education cash grant in particular. My colleague, Mr. Trotman, has spoken eloquently and clearly on this matter. What I want to say is that in addition to raising the uniform voucher allowance, we are also widening the school feeding program, because when I read a report, for instance, at New Campbellville Secondary, that there are about 50 students who regularly come to school hungry. We have to deal with the school feeding program, not just in the hinterland, but in the coast, in Georgetown, wherever children are coming to school without a proper meal. We do not believe, Mr. Speaker, that any one solution can be applied to the challenges regarding access to education. We believe that we have to try enhancing reliable existing methods, like expanding the warm meals and general school feeding programs, for example, and to come up with new methods of creating access to education.
The cost of transportation is also being addressed as part of a buses, boats and bicycles, or 3Bs program aimed at ensuring that all the children of Guyana are able to get to school. Through this project, boats have been provided through partnerships between the government and members of the private sector to transport students in the Pomeroon River.
I'm here because of her. I'm here because another person who I see, where is he? I don't want to call names. Right behind me. He told me that he was spending about $5,000 a week to get his children from his grant to charity secondary school, his daughter. It is unconscionable. And that good man, I think, temporarily had to leave his farm to go and hustle one pennyweight in the gold field. I don't know who, I can't remember who he is, man. I don't want points. Y'all might go and ask if he's on pennyweight. But the point is that when I make these decisions, it's not because I'm politicking or I want to be popular. It is because people living in these communities, in Akawini and Friendship and Wakapaw, because they tell me things and I listen to them. And I go back and try to use your vote to work for you. So this vote that you get here today was inspired by the residents of the Pomeroon. And it will take place, ceremonies like this will take place in the Borbis River, in the Mazaruni River, in the Essequibo River, and elsewhere. But the idea came from the Pomeroon.
Further, even as students benefit from the hinterland and other scholarships programs, plans are in place to have other students benefit from a new scholarship program named after former Education Minister, Dr. Desi Fox. This new administration is committed to ensuring that all of Guyana's children, irrespective of their geographical location, can benefit from affordable access to the best learning resources that are available. It will also ensure that teachers are equipped to guide, instruct, and inspire them. Most importantly, it will guarantee support for parents in ensuring that their children benefit from educational opportunities.
Another critical area that has been addressed is the quality of health care. Like education, it was found that the quality of services offered on the coast was far better than what was offered in the hinterland. While the challenges of providing a similar quality health care system in the hinterland have been noted, the government is committed to ensure that the hinterland residents can access most basic health services.
Following visits to several hinterland regions and inspecting health facilities, Health Minister Dr. George Norton reported that several needed revamping. Subsequent budgetary allocations will cater for the renovation and upgrade hospitals and health huts and posts countrywide.
I've been into the Pomeroon River to see bats taking over a health clinic. We've got to do better than that, and that is my approach. You can't have a hospital built with cement and concrete and steel in Cato with no doctor. You can't have in Mountain Foot in Region 8 a health center that is halfway built, clay bricked and not being completed.
With the realization of the coalition government's plans, hinterland residents will definitely benefit from better health care. A modern hospital for Port Kaituma Region 1 is currently under construction. Baramitas Health Center will be transformed into a cottage hospital. The Bakira Hospital's living quarters will be fixed, and both the Kumaka and the Mabarumas Hospital will experience an improved supply of electricity. The extra room at the Kumaka Hospital will also be rehabilitated, and the health post will be constructed in Poaikuru. In Region 7, the Bartika Hospital will be transformed into a regional facility, and the Wairamuri Health Center will be extended. Similar plans are on cards for Region 8 and 9 to upgrade the level of health care. While the physical facilities are to be enhanced, so too will the tools to effect quality health care. Equipment such as portable ultrasound machines, cardiac monitors, and wheelchairs, among others, will soon be dispensed to these healthcare facilities. Transportation also plays a great part in saving many lives, especially in the hinterland where villages are remote and scattered. This aspect will also be looked at as well.
We talk about a girl had to wait overnight with her throat slit on a plane, writing a letter to her father while she's dying, saying that he must forgive her. If as a human being, I don't bring tears to your eyes. As the Minister of Health, I can tell you, I'll never forget that. We can correct that situation if we have a water ambulance, like the people in Bartik are crying out for.
Part of a German fund Minister Norton disclosed will go towards bringing awareness and educating the Guyanese public on HIV/AIDS, malaria and tuberculosis. The hinterland is to benefit from this as well. In addition, Minister Norton noted that the funds granted will help in turning some of the health centers in hinterland areas into hospitals, as this will help provide treatment for those who cannot make it to Georgetown.
It makes no sense having a tiled operating theater at Skeldon, but you can't fit in the bed or fit in the light and so on. You go to Port Moran and you see large space not being occupied. Accident and emergency department developed and they're not moving over from the old one. We need to do more than that. And I'm not going to sit idle by and allow these things to happen.
The hinterland has been facing its own set of shortcomings in suicides, sexually transmitted diseases, and substance abuse. Because of this, its residents are requesting for more medical outreaches to tackle these social ills. While other government teams have already visited some of these areas, Dr. Norton is expected soon to visit and address this matter. Then, there is continuous training of medical professionals to be better equipped to address medical issues. Hinterland medical personnel are to benefit from this as well.
I feel that the faster we get our GPs specialized, the more we can get out of them. For too long we've been depending on the Indians, on the Chinese, on the Cubans to provide us with specialists. Okay? We've got quite a lot of general practitioners in the system. We should try to get them specialized.
By investing in bringing the hinterland health sector on par with the coastlands, it is safe to say that residents there will be experiencing quality and satisfactory health service.
Over 3,000 youths within Guyana's interior are to benefit from training in various skills. The government launched a Hinterland Employment and Youth Service program. In this feature, we examine the program and some of the areas of emphasis.
The coalition government, in its efforts to create equal access to opportunities for all, has committed to the development of the indigenous youth. Hence, the development of the Hinterland Employment and Youth Services program to meet the needs of the indigenous youth. The aim of the program is intended to fully equip the indigenous youths for employment, which will ultimately lead to the development of their communities.
We decided to design a program that can suit you, to build you as a person, so that you can earn for yourselves, contribute to your communities and the country as a whole. So I want to read something. President Granger, at one time, before he became president, he wrote, "Guyana cannot become one nation if gross disparities persist between the hinterland and the coastland, between the educated and a mass of semi-literates, and between the very rich and very poor."
The Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs has already facilitated over 200 hinterland students entry into the University of Guyana, the Kurukuru Training College, and the Government Technical Institute. The Bena Hill Institute in Anai Region 9 is another agency which will facilitate training of youths. Already, the institute is on its way to being transformed into a higher institute of learning for the indigenous youths, as the number of intakes for 2015 has been doubled.
We have actually 40.5 million to do certain things here. We would like to First of all, get all the things sorted out. And you would know, I think we have a listener, but we would also like to have a building, I was thinking somewhere out there, to accommodate mechanics, woodworking, and welding. Because you see, bicycles, motorcycles, tractors, so many things here that you have enough work for qualified mechanics and more mechanics. And we would like every single person here, eventually, when they leave here, they must know to drive and they must know something about mechanics. The plan is, with the youth program, when you're finished, this is besides this one here, you would be able to walk away with your toolkit. So you go as a mechanic or you go work in the community.
Youths are being urged to take advantage of the opportunities presented to them, as it will aid in the further advancement of their lives and communities. Over the years of existence, the Bena Hill Institute has produced many students who have gone back to their individual communities to advance the developmental process.
We need to put our hands at the wheel, just like our other Guyanese brothers and sisters, to build our communities and build this nation. And we can only do so through education and skills training. The hinterland has so much potential for tourism. That will be a part of your studies. So you will be trained in tourism and hospitality, ecotourism, tour guides, and once a month there will be workshops to deal with such things like trafficking in persons, like teenage pregnancy, like violence, gender-based violence, alcohol addiction. We will have workshops on those, drugs and alcohol addiction.
The coalition government remains passionate about educating the nation's children, and it believes that this is the way out of poverty, and it also gives power to the people. This Hinterland Employment and Youth Services Program is one of the first of many such planned interventions by the administration. There are plans to replicate the Bena Hill Institute in other indigenous communities in Guyana.
That has brought us to the end of Guyana 411 for this week, where we looked at providing a good life for residents in the hinterland. I am Sinika Thorne. Thank you for staying with us. Remember, all our programs can be viewed on YouTube, or you can visit our website or Facebook page. Goodbye.